The labor movement and progressive policy don't just go hand in hand, they're one and the same. The labor movement's always been on the forefront of progressive change. A lot of these issues that we're talking about, the healthcare issues you're talking about, I talked about public education, but we've negotiated a lot of those things into our contracts decades before public policy catches up with the things that we put into there. When it comes to the idea of equality under the law and opposing discrimination, the labor movement led the way on that long before it was politically popular or expedient. Unions fought for protections based on sexual orientation. I can remember in the mid-90s, I came up through the GM system. We negotiated same-sex benefits. I stood in front of groups trying to explain that contract. I got more grief from our members at that time over why we did that than over the pay raises they wanted more of or the benefits they wanted more of. That was long before you saw any of that come into public policy. To this day in Michigan, outside of 2 or 3 dozen local ordinance, the only protection many members of the LGBT community have in the workplace come from their union negotiated contract. A union contract also helps close that gap between gender pay that exists in our society. While union members typically make more per week than non-union members, that bonus is a lot larger for women. Women union members who work full-time typically make 30% more than women who are non-union workers. Latina women especially benefit from a union contract. Their increase is 36% more in their paychecks than their non-union counterparts. Equal treatment of all our brothers and sisters for us has always been the best possible position at the bargaining table, and quite frankly, it's just the right thing to do. We've also, in the union member movement, also been longtime defenders of public goods and services, working to protect them from the efforts to privatize it and profitize it. In Michigan, we stood against the efforts to privatize our prisons and jails, as well as services provided to veterans. Privatization, I can never say that, but it never provides the savings that it promises. They promise all these savings, it never realizes the efficiencies that they claim to have either. Privatization always puts profit ahead of offering what was once a quality public service. All you have to do is go down to my hometown of Grand Rapids and talk to those veterans in the Grand Rapids Veterans Home. On the north end, right on the river, there's a little jewel they've had there for years. It's a veterans home. The care there was unionized. Snyder and crew came in and thought they were going to save a buck and privatized it. And they went with a low bidder. That outfit had never even been in that kind of business, never provided care before. Those veterans in that home were abused. And there's videos of it. One poor guy was in a wheelchair. They winged him down a hall. And why? Who knows? Cracked his vertebrae in his neck, but he wasn't the only one. We put so much pressure on, they finally went in, pulled them out, put the unionized workers back in. But those veterans in that home physically suffered because of that privatization effort. That effort to privatize everything is perhaps, in my mind, most concerning when it comes to our schools and educating our kids. Our brothers and sisters in the labor movement have consistently fought against these DeVos-backed efforts to turn our public schools into profit centers for corporate interests. It's sick and obscene in my point of view, but to us, a public education should be nothing more than providing the foundation for an informed member of society and providing a pathway to learning a skilled trade, which is a tremendous shortage of it in this state, for those who don't want to go to college, or preparing our young people to go to college so that they can succeed. The success of our students should always come before making a profit, no exceptions. And if we don't turn the tide back, that's The other issue Norm talked about, far more eloquent than I could have, but is access to affordable quality health care is another issue where unions have long pushed for making sure that not just our members when we're at the bargaining table, but everyone has access to affordable quality health care. Too many working families are one health care crisis away from bankruptcy. Part of the reason that we endorsed Gretchen Whitmer for governor is because I know Gretchen really well. I worked with her when she was in the Senate, and those TV commercials you see about her being one of the driving forces for getting Healthy Michigan and that Medicaid expansion and covering 680,000 more people in the state is true. If it wasn't for her working across that aisle to get that done, we wouldn't have it here today. And despite his recent attempts, I don't know how political I'm supposed to get in the group, but
It's okay.
despite all these recent attempts by the hometown boy here, Bill Schuette, to say that he's not going to take that away. We know he opposed Healthy Michigan and that Medicaid expansion. He railed against it during the primaries that he was going to do it, and he was a party to multiple lawsuits to cut the Affordable Care Act. His election, I can tell you, would jeopardize health care that so many have gained and that's benefited their life and economic well-being. That achievement is so important for us to protect. You know how many people 680,000 is in this state? And a lot of it is kids who would be left out otherwise. And Norm talked about environmental issues. A lot of times labor's not viewed as being all that an environmental issue, but just last week in the Detroit News, I'm a UAW guy, but the president of the UAW, Gary Jones, authored an article in there detailing about how fuel efficiency and reducing emissions are not only good for the environment, but good for workers too. We can be good environmental stewards and create quality jobs. The steelworkers are a prime example of that. The work is done through the blue-green lines and things like that. The concepts are not mutually exclusive, and we just want to be have a foot in the door when this type of work comes in, that we can make it unionized so that workers can get a decent wage out of it and not be exploited. But finally, we know how to make progress on many of these issues. We need to change the way decision makers are chosen in this state. I feel as strongly about that. As strongly about that probably as I do anything in this election cycle, except getting majority down there. But that's why we endorsed Proposal 2 and the concept of it creating the redistricting commission. The way the lines are drawn now, it should be criminal, but it allows the bargaining power to manipulate the rules, and they do, and design districts that help them keep their grip on power. That's not how representative democracy is supposed to work. In fact, it rigs it. It almost is set up to rig it. And I tell you, I work 3 blocks from that Capitol. It is rigged down there. It is definitely rigged. If working people, families, are ever going to have a decent chance of having their concerns addressed down there, they need to be able to make their voices heard at the ballot box, and we need a system that's far more responsive to the will of the voters. We need that independent commission drawing the lines rather than politicians to bring balance and more fairness to the process. I can tell you, all you have to do is look at one of those maps. In the law, it says these lines are supposed to be straight and contiguous, meaning like boxes, right? If you look at a map of our congressional lines, state house lines, it looks like you took a handful of wet spaghetti noodles and threw them on a plate. They go like this, and it's cheating. They're rigging the system, and they've had